What's up everybody, welcome to Rotor Riot Workbench. I'm Let's Play RC, and today I'm going to show you how to install our Rotor Riot Edition AG01 Gimbals into your RadioMaster Boxer radio. To do this, you'll need a 2mm hex driver and a small Phillips head screwdriver, available at rotorriot.com. Today we're installing the custom Rotor Riot Edition AG01 Gimbals, but the standard AG01 gimbal installation should be the same. To protect your gimbals and switches during installation, I recommend using a soft pillow because we're going to have to flip the radio upside down on the table, and this will keep your switches and gimbals from being damaged during the installation. The first step is to remove the battery bay door and the batteries. Next, you'll want to remove the module bay cover or any modules that might be on the back of the radio. Some of the screws are located behind the hand grips on the back of the radio, so we'll need to pull them aside and get them out of the way so we can access the screw holes. There's a slot on the back of these hand grips. Simply put your fingernail in there and pull the hand grip aside. Just like that. You don't have to completely remove these hand grips. We just need to access the screw holes. Do that on both sides in order to access the screws on both sides of the radio. With your 2mm hex driver, remove 4 screws from the back of the radio. I like to use a magnet to hold the screws so I don't lose them. Now that the 4 screws have been removed, the hand grips loosen up and can be easily removed and set aside. Next, we're going to carefully remove the back cover of the radio. Be very careful of these little pins and don't damage them or bend them during case removal. There are no wires on the back of this case, so it comes right off and you can set it aside. Before going any further, I recommend taking a picture of the wiring and the gimbals so that you know where everything goes back together in the future steps. Now carefully remove the wiring on each gimbal on each side. Simply pull the cable out and unplug. Now that the cables are removed, take your small Phillips head screwdriver and unscrew the 4 screws on each gimbal. Magnetizing your screwdriver will make it easier to get the screws out without losing them. The 4 screws we're removing are the 4 silver screws. Before replacing the gimbal, pay close attention to the orientation of these metal bars on each side. Also, be sure to note that one of these 2 gimbals springs back to center and one of them does not. The gimbal that does not spring back to center is your throttle gimbal. Be sure to place it on the correct side based on your previous radio configuration or the configuration of your choice. These radios come in Mode 2 configuration, meaning that the left gimbal stick when facing you is the throttle and rudder channel, and the right gimbal stick when facing you is the aileron and elevator channel. Since the radio is upside down, this right stick is going to be my throttle channel, and it will not spring back to center. I'm going to replace this with the throttle gimbal. Take the gimbal that does not spring back to center and place it back in the same orientation as the old gimbal. Once you have it locked into place, reinstall the 4 screws. Double check the fit to make sure everything is lined up properly and repeat the process on the other side. Now that all 8 gimbal screws are back in place, reroute the cables and plug them back in like they were with the previous set of gimbals. Be sure to line up the connector in the proper orientation and be very gentle when plugging them back in so as not to damage the pins. Before reinstalling the case, double check that all of your cables are routed in a position to where they won't get pinched by the casing when reinstalling it. When reinstalling the casing, be very careful that this slot lines up to these pins and don't damage or bend them during reinstallation. Very carefully, line up the pins and slide the case back on. Because the case tightens down on the hand grips when tightening the screws, it's a good idea to go ahead and loosely place the hand grips back in place before executing this step. Now that your hand grips are back in place and these edges are lined up, starting with the top 2 screws, go ahead and reinstall your 4 case screws. Now that your top 2 case screws are tight, your hand grips should be a little bit more difficult to remove and give you access to reinstall the 2 bottom screws. Double check to make sure the edges are all flush with your hand grips on both sides and press them back in place. They take a little bit of finagling, but with a little bit of persistence, they'll line up nice and flush just like they did before. Next, reinstall any modules you might have had on the back of the radio or the module bay door, your battery, and your battery bay cover. And that's how you install AG01 gimbals in your RadioMaster Boxer. Before you can use your new radio, you'll need to calibrate your gimbals. I'll have a separate video describing how to do that. Keep an eye out for it, and it will be linked in the description when available. Thanks for watching, guys. If this video was helpful, be sure to like and subscribe so you can see more videos like this. I'm Let's Play RC, and we'll see you next time on Rotor Riot Workbench.